I wanted to make a video for Pride Month, but didn't know what to talk about, so instead I'm just going to be the 6 millionth person on the internet to talk about the Owl House. Let's go! So I think there is actually something I could talk about that I haven't seen others in the fandom talk about, not even like storytelling cartoon fanatics like Red from OSP. They don't talk about this. Are you ready for what they don't talk about? The main relationship between Luz and Amity.
Oh my god!
Alright, don't get me wrong, everyone talks about Lumity, but when you ask them why people like it so much, you'll usually get something along the lines of, they're extremely gay and or extremely cute together. But what I want to know is, why are they so adorable and gay? The latter is because Dana Terrace had the guts to tell Disney that was going to be the case, and they couldn't stop her. The former, I'm a lot more unsure on. It's very hard for me to get invested in romance subplots of any kind. I find them to be stilted and uninteresting, more often than not clogging up the more interesting story bits, and causing the whole thing to be weaker for it. And yet, with Lumity, even I go, aww, every time the two of them share even the smallest of interactions. So what I want to find out is, like, what is it about Lumity that makes the Voldemorts, fuck you, J.K. Rowling, like, be invested in their relationship? Well, it's a combination of factors. 3, to be exact. Number 1, their relationship is given ample time to not only develop, but to exist within the narrative. They have chemistry with each other, for number 2. And number 3, their relationship is mutually supportive. Well, let's start with the easy one, time. This is the first thing a lot of stories get wrong. The way I would describe a lot of relationships in fiction is all build up, no payoff, especially recently. That is that many writers will spend a lot of time handcrafting a couple with chemistry and compatibility and shots of them staring at each other in order to sell the audience on a romantic relationship, only to have them get together at the end of the season, and then either that's the end of the show and we never get to reap the benefits of them being in a relationship, or cut an undisclosed amount of time later, and suddenly the two are broken up or are very distant from each other. I'm sorry, but if you spend all that time building up a connection between two characters, following it up with, sorry, these two aren't actually compatible for a relationship, you stupid idiot, isn't really a satisfying payoff to all that build-up, is it? We didn't get invested in these two because we wanted the rug pulled out from under us. We got invested because we wanted to see them together. Owl House doesn't do that. Firstly, it doesn't fall into the trap of having the characters get together at the end of the show, instead having them start dating in the middle of it. Then they spend an ample amount of time dedicated to just having them be a cute couple. Obviously, that doesn't mean you should steal time away from the overarching plot in order to convince us that these characters are right together, but Owl House has a cheat code where it neatly weaves character conflicts together and thus no time is wasted by focusing on two things at the same time, unlike some Avatar: The Last Airbender sequels I could mention. Not only do Amity and Luz get together in episode 8 of season 2, spoiler alert, instead of the finale, but the episode right after immediately shows us their relationship in a unique situation, and Amity learns that her usual method of thinking, being a merit-based structure, is flawed because Luz is not the kind of person, failure and all that, that's not her deal. Then another 2 episodes later, just a series of interactions between the two are implanted into the narrative, and followed by Reaching Out, the best episode of the show, and we'll get to that. When I watch Young Justice Season 1, every time they focus on the relationship stuff between Superboy and the Martian lady, I just roll my eyes, because I know that this relationship they're building up will amount to nothing! In contrast, whenever I go back and watch other episodes of The Owl House, I'm always excited when the Lumity awkwardness shows up because I know it has a satisfying payoff. The thing that endears us time and time again to these characters is that these interactions between the two as GFs happen time and time again. We're always excited to come back and see what new exchanges between the two we'll get. Which brings me to number 2, chemistry. Put succinctly, chemistry is the flow of a conversation between two characters. It's whether or not a conversation feels like natural between the two. And you can apply this to any character relationship, but you know that a group of characters have chemistry if the dialogue in a scene moves at an even pace and characters are saying things that make sense in the context. They all respond to each other in their own way that doesn't break up the conversation. Good chemistry and dialogue flows, and you enjoy listening to the characters speak. With stilted dialogue and characters who don't have chemistry, you'll notice that the conversations between these guys will feel like a drag to get through. And that goes double for romances. If the partners don't feel natural when talking to each other, then the audience will begin to question why these two are in a relationship or have feelings for each other at all. Attack of the Clones springs to mind. The dialogue between Anakin and Padme is so stilted that they seem more like a therapist-therapy relationship, where Padme does nothing but console Anakin, and Anakin does nothing but whine. Anytime they're, like, trying to talk about their mutual interests, it just feels slow and forced. Wow, yeah, we get it, Anakin. You hate sand.
I don't like sand.
That's so illuminating. Anyway, back to the Owl House. I'm gonna play you a brief clip between the two, and I want you to see how well it flows.
Sweet potato? How did you know?
Book 5, Chapter 8, Azura pretends to kidnap Hecate.
During the Ice Festival to save her from the Wizard Clan. You remembered my favorite part.
Yes, but right now I just want to keep my girlfriend from being sent to the conformatorium.
You see how that little exchange flowed, like, just so well? Like, the characters didn't pause or hesitate. Everything seemed natural. That's what chemistry looks like. And every single interaction between the two is superb at this. There isn't a single interaction between Luz and Amity that isn't adorable or badass or both. It's great, and I hope more romance writers take notice. But as for the final component, there's the whole mutually supportive bit. And this is where we're going to get into major spoilers, so just don't watch this bit if you haven't seen the show. Instead, you should go see the show right now. It's really good. It doesn't matter if the first episode's kind of limp. It's really good. Go fucking watch it. If you don't, I hate you. Perhaps the biggest pitfall is that once a relationship starts between two characters, the characters don't feel supportive of each other. Like, they live their own lives with their own baggage, and none of them communicate the extremely important point that helping each other was one of the core tenets behind a relationship, I think. Again, I don't do those, so take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, okay? Anyway, this is where we could talk about one of my favorite 20 minutes of television ever. Reaching Out. This episode is an immaculate example of what I'm talking about. Okay, so after a series of dramatic events involving brawl fights and Amity's father reigning in on a parade, Amity runs and Luz chases after her, and she finds her at a cherry tree. Yes, Owl House. Very subtle. We get it. She asks to sit down. Take note, modern writers' consent is very important. After Amity vents for a bit about the situation, Luz finally explains the truth, which is that, she's been acting kind of strange for the entire episode. She's more active, frantic, and all that. And she finally reveals that that particular day that the episode takes place in is the anniversary of her the Papa's death. I'm not crying. After explaining, Amity has like a genuine look of like horror and concern as Luz kind of talks about it. And the direction, and the framing is so good. I could dedicate an entire video to it, but I won't because we have more important issues. Anyway, she offers to console her, pick some flowers like she used to do with her mom on that day, and then that comes back when Luz comes back at the climax, then helps Amity and thanks her for listening, only to turn around and help her with her problems. And it's just, these two are so supportive of each other. That is what, like, a mutually supportive relationship looks like. That's what a good, well-written relationship looks like. One character isn't mentally damaged and the other is their therapist. Everyone goes through something at least one point in their lives, and it's the responsibility of both parties to help each other while going through that. And so many stories get this wrong. Like in Legend of Korra, no one in that show cares about the other's problems in their relationships. They just always blow up in their faces because, oh no, my problems are more important. No, shitheads, that's not how this works. Dana Terrace understands that and wrote a relationship in which both characters know and understand each other, and it adds a surprisingly nuanced personal connection between the two and makes us more invested. So, in conclusion, thanks to a combination of ample time, great chemistry, and supportive characters with empathy, Liberty sticks out as a prime example of how to write an effective relationship. Another writer should take notice. I personally don't really want to see more romantic relationships in adventure fantasy cartoons for obvious reasons, but if you're gonna do it, you might as well do it right, and Liberty should be the template. Anyway, happy Pride Month, and here's a meme!
Nicely done, gentlemen. Your work here today has made the Chancellor a very happy man.